Welcome to Gene's Reviews, where I basically do whatever the hell I want. Hello everybody, welcome to my car. Today we're going to do one from Most Amazing Top 10. This is the top 10 scary internet theories. So, let's check this out, and I'll tell you whether I think they're real or not.
Hello everyone, what is happening? I'm your host Eamon Hassan and welcome back to another video here at Most Amazing Top 10. Don't we all just love conspiracy theories? I think the first one I ever watched long videos about was actually the Illuminati. My friend told me he had been watching conspiracy videos about it, so I decided to look into it and I was like, wow. I felt like I was dumb and the world as I knew it was just not how it seemed. But anyway, Illuminati aside, there are way too many conspiracy theories circulating on the internet, so let's dig our teeth into them. Before
I believe
start
there's
my
a
spiel,
secret
make sure to
society.
check out top 10 Hindi videos as well, guys, for more me and more cool content. Subtitled, don't you worry. This one is a long one, but I promise you it is worth it, so stick with me. But without further ado, this is the top 10 scary internet conspiracy theories. Starting us off from number 10 is Madeleine McCann, and honestly, I remember the day she disappeared. I was in about, I think, year 6
I remember
at the time,
that.
and she was all over the news. If you don't know the case, Madeleine was a 3-year-old British girl who was on holiday in Portugal with her siblings, their parents Kate and Jerry, and a group of
I didn't know there was
family friends and
conspiracy
their
around
children.
it.
She and her siblings were sleeping while the parents were out for dinner, and the parents checked back and found her missing at around 10 p.m. Now, the parents adamantly backed the story that a man had kidnapped Madeleine, and a man had been seen carrying a child towards the beach that night. She's been missing for nearly 12 years now, and people have theorized that she was actually killed the night she disappeared by none other than her parents. Eyewitnesses around the hotel at the time claimed they saw a man walking away with a rolled up carpet, but the description fit Jerry McCann quite well. Kate and Jerry had even admitted that sometimes they gave the kids sleeping pills so they could go out. If that was the case, what if that night Madeleine accidentally OD'd and it just spiraled from there and they just had to cover it up? The parents have been under media scrutiny for this reason for years, and you know what they say, there's no smoke without fire. Coming in at number 9 is the murder.
They have to look into that stuff, I understand, but I really don't want to believe that the parents had anything to do with it. I don't know about you, but I don't know.
Of Isaac Hayes. Hayes was a singer, songwriter, producer.
I didn't know he got murdered.
He was in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and was also behind the hit song Soul Man. He was also best known for voicing Jerome Chef McElroy on the cartoon series South Park. But Hayes was also a Scientologist, and without getting too into it, the Church of Scientology does not take kindly to people who have anything bad to say about it. The episode Trapped in the Closet aired on November 16th, 2005, and Hayes was not in it as Chef because the episode made fun of Scientology and Tom Cruise, a fellow Scientologist and probably the most well-known one out there. He then left the show altogether, probably because the church forced him to, and he claimed the series treated religion as satirical and that those beliefs are sacred to a lot of people. Even though the series had bashed many religions throughout its 9 seasons before Hayes drew the line at Scientology. The episode was the first time the origin myth of Scientology was told on primetime television, so then it was theorized that the Church of Scientology labeled him a suppressive person and murdered him in his home. In Scientology, a suppressive person is someone who the church sees as an enemy and someone who would hinder other people in the religion. Hayes was found dead in his home in August 2008. His body was found next to a still-running treadmill, and the cause of death was never confirmed. It's also rumored that the head of Scientology's wife has also been killed because she hasn't been seen in public in years.
She was just recently seen.
At number 8, we have Time as We Know It. You thought it was 2019? Think again. It's apparently actually 1722. The phantom time hypothesis was a historical conspiracy theory which stated that the Holy Roman Emperor Otto III, Byzantine Emperor Constantine VII, and Pope Sylvester II all worked together to fabricate the Anno Domini dating system in order to put themselves in power in the special year of 1000 AD. They achieved this by forging and altering documents and physical evidence, and according to the theory, the whole Carolingian period wasn't real, and a phantom time of 297 years was added to the early Middle Ages. So were the early Middle Ages made up? I love how these leaders literally changed the calendar just because they wanted to be in power in a certain year. Filling our number 7 slot is Denver.
Could you imagine if we're only in 17 something right now? That's crazy. With all the theories that the world's going to be destroyed in such and such a year and everything, and it's not even that year. Those years that are missing had to have been completely made up. Yeah, that's crazy. I don't believe it, though. I don't want to believe that. I don't believe it.
Airport. This airport opened back at the start of 1995, a whole 16 months behind schedule, and it also cost a whopping $4.8 billion, which is over $2 billion more than originally budgeted, and it's 35,000 acres big. Conspiracy theories have been surrounding the airport since its creation. People think there's a post-apocalyptic bunker underneath that the world's elite can flock to if anything happens. The decor of the airport is unusual, you could say. There's a 32-foot blue devil horse sculpture outside, many violent murals inside which show apocalyptic warfare, and a one world government that will take over. There's a sculpture of a devil coming out of a suitcase and Templar markings in every terminal. The airport's dedication stone contains Masonic imagery and New World Order references. Like, it doesn't say the state of Denver funded it, it just says the New World Airport Commission. An ex-construction worker of the project actually said the reason construction was so behind was because at least 5 multi-story buildings were built and then mysteriously buried underneath the airport. Him and other employees all stated that there's a very complex network of tunnels underneath the establishment. So with all that being said, what's the tea, people? Now at number 6 are psychedelics.
I believe that one, because it went more than $2 billion over budget. What are they spending that money on? There has to be tunnels under there. There's tunnels everywhere, though. Everywhere. The town I live in has tunnels. And the town that I moved here from, that I was born in, has tunnels that the Mormon people used to use to hide from persecution and stuff.
May it be shrooms, LSD, whatever you want. Now, if you don't know or haven't guessed from the name, psychedelic drugs have the primary function of creating psychedelic experiences in your mind, hence changing your audio and visual senses and just altering your state of consciousness overall. Some studies have found that these drugs actually help people who are addicted to nicotine or alcohol, and they are actually 100% physiologically safe and do not lead to addiction. Most of these drugs are illegal worldwide, despite people still doing them all the time anyway. The conspiracy theory comes from user me123 who thinks psychedelics aren't illegal because the government cares about us and wants the best for our well-being and for us to not trip out on drugs. No, quite the contrary. They're illegal because they change the culturally laid down models of behavior we have, they change the way we process information, and they dissolve our opinion structure.
Now they have DMT
open people up to the
and
possibility
ayahuasca.
that everything we know is wrong, and that can really make us question the government, which is exactly what they want to prevent. Coming in at number 5 is the Roswell Coverup. Most people will know that in 1947 an apparent UFO crashed in Roswell, New Mexico, but that's not the story that was actually released. What was released was that an Air Force hot air balloon had simply crashed on a ranch in Roswell, but many believe that the government was just covering that up. Many ufologists began saying that it was an alien spacecraft that crash landed and the extraterrestrials aboard were recovered by the military and the whole thing was hidden. Newman the Great on Reddit theorized that it was hidden because they knew there would be widespread panic. In 1938, Orson Welles did a radio broadcast of a book called War of the Worlds, in which aliens come to Earth and screw everything up, and people believed it, and there was a lot of havoc. So if there was that much freaking out over a radio broadcast, they didn't even want to imagine the horror if people started finding out a flying disc
back then people probably would have lost their
minds.
minds.
By the 1990s, the US military had said the object was a nuclear test balloon from Project Mogul, but even still, people weren't convinced. At number 4 is the Mandela
Now
Effect.
I think
have
people
you ever
would
been so sure about an event, but when you talk about it to a friend, they have a completely different
the Mandela
Effect of that event, that you both believe what you know to be true? Well, welcome to the Mandela Effect. The effect was coined by paranormal enthusiast Fiona Broom, who believed Nelson Mandela had died in prison in the 80s. She created the term when she found out that she was one amongst many others who also thought Mandela had died. And it wasn't just because, oh, they hadn't heard about him in a while, he probably died in prison. Fiona vividly remembered media coverage of Mandela's funeral in 20 2010 and riots in the aftermath. She realized groups of people remember history differently to others. Like someone remembered the protester that defied the tanks at the Tiananmen Square massacre was run over by them, and that's what they were actually taught in school, whereas footage
believe
shows
in the
tanks
Mandela Effect.
stopping. So according to this conspiracy theory,
Alternate
these
realities
memories are accounted for by time travelers who have changed history and thus have created alternate realities. Some of us have moved between those realities, so we remember stuff that has been written out of our timeline. The biggest example is the children's book The Bernstein Bears. Now half the people
I don't know
believe
anything
it's
about
spelled with an
that.
E, and others are adamant that it was with an A. I mean, was a spelling changed for whatever reason in one timeline and not the other? Who knows? Do you remember with an A or an E? Let me know in the comments
I don't
below.
remember
Filling
that
our
one.
number 3 slot is JFK's assassination.
Oh,
Even
lots
before
of
scripting this
conspiracies
video, I just knew some
about
American
that.
president was going to be on this list, and here he is. People have been speculating for decades that JFK's assassination was a planned conspiracy. According to a survey done in 2013, 51% of Americans believe it was a conspiracy. That's more than half the public. That's a high freaking number, so let's find out why they think that. Many eyewitnesses of the assassination claim they were intimidated by the Warren Commission. Jean Hill, an eyewitness, said she was humiliated and discredited and abused by Secret Service agents, and she received death threats. She said the Warren Commission interviewers kept cutting any comments that implied Lee Harvey Oswald hadn't acted alone when he shot JFK. On top of that, many witnesses just mysteriously died. 130 people died, and all the deaths were grouped around investigations carried out by the Warren Commission. People's testimonies were ignored if they didn't fit the original story, and anyone who captured the assassination on camera had it confiscated. Author David Lifton even presented the thesis that JFK's body had been tampered with between the hospital and the autopsy site. Evidence was fabricated, documents were withheld. Many people think Oswald was hired by the KGB or CIA to assassinate JFK, and the real truth is yet to be found. Now at number 2 is Hitler. Yes, everybody hates the man for good reason, and we all know that. Everyone also knows that he committed suicide along with his wife in 1945.
Yeah,
because a
they're
dude
saying
entered
that
his
he
study and found
died
both
an old
bodies. That
man.
was the story, and that was what was believed. But deaths have been faked before, and if there's anything you've learned from this video by now, it's that you shouldn't always believe the government. According to Redditor Mischief 1989 and many others, Hitler actually didn't die. He escaped to Argentina. I mean, Argentina isn't that random. A lot of Nazis fled and relocated to Argentina, and apparently there were many tunnels in his house leading him directly to a getaway airfield. All of Hitler's most precious possessions were found hidden away in a family home in Argentina. The country also had a lot of towns that supported him, and there was even schools teaching Aryan youth. And by the time he apparently committed suicide, the German military situation was basically on the verge of total collapse, so he really didn't have much to lose at that point. So if he had a chance of escaping,
well, I hope he's in
and
hell
surviving
now
and being
anyway.
protected anywhere, it would have been Argentina. And finally, last but not least, at number 1 is the Titanic. Did your heart go on? Because mine certainly didn't after Rose snaked Jack and let him go. According to this theory, it wasn't the Titanic that sank on that ill-fated day on the 15th of April 1912. It was actually the RMS Olympic. Let's backtrack. The White Star Line shipping company made a trio of Olympic-class liners: the Titanic, the Olympic, and the Britannic. Now, these 3 ships looked very similar. If you see a picture of the Titanic and the Olympic side by side, unless you're nitpicking, they look identical. September 20th, 1911, the Olympic collided with another ship, and it had to be taken out of service and repaired. This meant the Titanic's journey had to be delayed a month, which is something White Star Line couldn't afford. They had bills to pay, and they also had to repair the Olympic, so they had to come up with some sort of plan to claim the money they lost. They decided to switch the Titanic with the Olympic and sink it to claim insurance compensation. Now, no one knew about the switch except the employees and the 4 men in charge: J. Bruce Ismay, Lord Peary,
I hadn't heard this.
J.P. Morgan, and Thomas Andrews. The Olympic underwent renovations to look exactly like the Titanic. Carpeting was put on the floorboards so people wouldn't be suspicious as to why a never-before-traveled ship had footprints and stains on its boards. However, there was one notable difference: the portholes on the sea deck. When the Titanic was being made, it had 14 evenly spaced portholes, but when it set out on its journey, it had 16 unevenly spaced ones. On top of that, many employees have come out and said they were told they couldn't tell anyone about the swap, otherwise they would be put in jail for 20 years, and this would be the last job they ever did. If that doesn't convince you, then maybe this one will. The 4 owners were all magically unable to take part in the journey after confirming they would be on the ship. J.P. Morgan cancelled because he was sick, but was spotted 2 days later completely fine, and he even took 7 of his bronze statues off the ship before it left. J. Bruce Ismay cancelled his trip trip because his wife was sick, but they were also spotted completely fine. Another ship, the SS Californian, had no passengers on it when it left London. It just had a bunch of blankets and warm clothes for the Titanic passengers. But the captain forgot to take his wireless chart, hence it never got to the Titanic, but it did set out to save the people on the ship. There's a lot more to this story, even though it feels like I've said the whole thing, but this is the main meat of it. I didn't want to shorten it because I was like, no way, they definitely need all the info. And guys, that's it for today's video.
Wow.
I know.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if all that's true or not, but nothing, like I've said, nothing would surprise me. Nothing. There's so much crazy stuff that's happened. Let me know what you thought in the comments down below. Now it's time for a joke. Today a girl compared me to Ryan Gosling. She said, "Gene, you're nothing like Ryan Gosling." Thank you, everybody. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hashtag Mean Gene, all that fun stuff. And if you like this video, tell all your friends, leave a comment down below. And if you didn't like it, then just shut up. And I will see you next time.